Happy St. Patrick's Day, Girl Scouts! Today I'm going to show you how I make Irish soda bread, which is a wonderful tradition and something that I've always made with my mom, who is also my Girl Scout leader. First up, I'm going to put wax paper down on my table because this is going to make a big mess. Why do you think I overlapped the wax paper? First step, gather all of your ingredients. I use an old family recipe, but you can find lots of different recipes online that are going to show you all the ingredients that you need. These are the ones that I need. I need measuring cups and spoons, a big bowl, and something to bake in. First up, adding all the flour. When you're making bread, you need a lot of flour because that makes up the base of what you're making. We also add a little bit of sugar because this is a sweet bread. From there, we add some baking soda. Do you know what baking soda does in the baking process? What about baking powder? I think you should pause this video and figure out the difference between the two. Do you know? A little bit of salt. I added a little extra, that's why I dumped it out. Then you mix it all together. Last but not least of the dry ingredients, caraway seeds. This gives the soda bread a really distinguished flavor. Mix it all up. Up next, we need some melted butter, and we need 2 eggs. After we break the eggs, we're going to whisk them with a fork. Do you know what it means to whisk eggs? Have you ever done it before? So now we'll pour the egg mixture into the dry mixture. The butter's already in there too. And we'll stir it all up until it's well mixed. This part can be tricky because it gets a little clumpy, so you have to keep stirring until it seems evenly mixed. You could see that some flour flew out the side of the bowl, which is why we have the wax paper down. Up next, buttermilk, which if you've never worked with buttermilk before, it's kind of a really thick milk, and we add just a little bit at a time. So the recipe that I use calls for 1.5 cups, but you really have to watch and look at the consistency of the dough, what it looks like. Add a little bit at a time, because it's easier to add a little bit at a time than to have to go back and add more flour to fix if you added too much buttermilk. Once it gets really hard to stir with a spoon, you're going to stir it with your hands. Why do you think I'm putting flour on my hands first? You can see me turning the dough in the bowl, scraping it off the bottom of the bowl, until I can pick it up in my hands and form it into what looks like a bread, a loaf of bread. I put a little bit more flour on because it was a little bit too sticky, a little bit too moist. And then I'm going to toss it between my hands, and you can see that I'm kind of patting the bread flat, putting it into kind of a bread formation. Now in that pie tin, I already have a little bit of flour. Again, why do you think I already have flour in that pie tin? If you haven't figured it out, the flour helps things to not stick together. And now I have my loaf of bread just about ready. In my family, we always put a cross across the center of the bread. That way it forms a nice little formation. So a little X across the top of the bread. And then it's ready to go in the oven. I made some for my friends too. I made a big mess. And they turned out great. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Girl Scouts!